Hello, everyone. Actually, before I start my speech, I wanted to congratulate the team who has put a lot of effort behind Startup Istanbul. We were talking with the team of other people traveling from Iran, although then they were saying that what Startup Istanbul is doing is truly turning this city and this region into the hub of innovation and startups in the region, which is a great job. But today I'm going to talk about a market which might be a little bit a black box, which has been in a black box in the past perhaps few years, and tell you about the story which has happened especially in the past 2 years. The first part of the presentation is going to be about the demographics and the statistics, to tell you more about what is, how does it look like in the Iranian market. Iran is a country of young, educated people. So if you compare it to Turkey, this is quite similar to Turkey, and there are a lot of young, educated people and talent, which 64% of them are under 35 years old, which is very interesting, and this is just the perfect time for launching a startup and being an entrepreneur. And more interesting is that 32 million people are between 20 to 35 years old, which is even make it more interesting because this is the perfect age for people to buy online and be a customer. So more information, and especially if you want to see how the trends look like, you will see that the population in 2012 used to be 75 million now, so it's still increasing. Right now we have around 80 million people in the country. The internet penetration is one of the highest in the region. So it used to be 42%, it's even increasing. 39 million people are connected. So it doesn't mean that they are all connected regularly, but they have used the internet before. And it even shows that in the future it's going to be even a more interesting market. And the mobile penetration is even more interesting. There are at this moment 126% of mobile penetration in Iran. So it means that almost everyone has more than one cell phone. The penetration of a smartphone is not still high, but the year-to-year growth has been the highest in the region. So if I want to tell you that if you compare Iran with the other countries in the region, you will see that the most number of internet users can be reached in Iran. So the first part I talked about the demographic and what are the statistics in Iran. But the second part I'm going to talk about the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, something that we have been truly engaged in the past 2 years. I can remember that 2 years ago I was always using Turkey as a successful example for the startup ecosystem, and I was putting, this is a very simplified version of how an ecosystem would look like. I'm sure that different people look at the ecosystem and the startup ecosystem in different ways, but these events, the events like Startup Turkey, Webrazi Summit, a lot of other events that you have in Turkey, is really playing an important role in the ecosystem. There is no doubt about this. Accelerators are there, İTOHAM, Girişim Fabrikası, Garage, and a lot more. I've heard today that there are around 22 of them, is that? So around 22 of startup accelerators are operating in Turkey. VCs are very active. Either there are local VCs or even international venture capitals that have stepped into the market. And also lots of medias and NGOs. Endeavor is very active here, trying to facilitate the relationship between different ecosystem players. And also you do have local medias, like Webrazi is writing both in Turkish and also putting a good spotlight on Turkish and English news. So the ecosystem, we have always used Turkey as a good example. So in 2012, there's been a lot which has been done, but looking at a simplified version of the startup ecosystem, so I'm not talking about entrepreneurship ecosystem, but I'm talking about startups, especially the ones in internet and mobile. There used to not be so many events, any accelerators, venture capitals, and NGO. There was basically not happening in the country. I mean, there's been ICT companies for sure, there's been internet providers, but coming to the ecosystem of a startup, not much was happening. But suddenly, in Iran, grassroots movements started to happen around startups, which is so interesting. If you see, you will see that within the past 2 years, more than 9 cities, entrepreneurs started to run events, started to talk about the startup world, and there were more than 25 only startup weekend events. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with this event, but 25 events in 9 cities, more than 2,500 people, and it was completely done by entrepreneurs. It was completely done and empowered by entrepreneurs. There was nothing like done by government. And this has made this explosive mass. And the next slide is a little bit maybe more interesting. If you search for the trend, in the trend of the startup word in Farsi, if you type it in Google, you will see that in the past 2 years, the word has become so much searched in Google search engine. So it means that people are more looking into content, looking into, learn how to launch their startups. So in 2014, a lot has happened in the past 2 years. You will see that venture capitals have stepped into the market. Most of them are completely by local funds, by successful entrepreneurs who brought their money in. Medias and NGOs started to work on entrepreneurship and specifically on the startup scene. Accelerators, so Avatech is one of the accelerators which I'm a co-founder myself. We provide the startup with $8,000 for around 6 months with training, office space and everything. And also the good news is that more accelerators are getting shaped in the country. We are in kind of collaboration together to make it even a movement of having startup accelerators, providing the seed fund, the space, the training and everything to the entrepreneurs. And also events, as I told you, Startup Weekend has become massive. Startup Grind, Lean Startup Machine, Iran Web Festival is quite similar to, like, it's an annual event. So a lot is going to happen. We were talking about the teams who are traveling from Iran, and we all believe that a similar event is required to, have the startups pitching, have the speakers speak at the event. So the first part I talked about the demographics. The second part I talked about the ecosystem and the boosting ecosystem. And in this part I want to tell you and I want to show you that this has worked and local success stories are now getting shaped. For example, Digicala is online retail. So those who are from Turkey, this is quite similar to Hepsi Burada. And this was founded 8 years or 7 years ago by twin brothers. And now their estimated valuation is around 150 million US dollar. They have been quite massive, they're quite dominant in online retail. The other one is Aparat, which is because YouTube is not accessible in Iran, these guys have started their own initiative and they have become quite big, serving a lot of videos, people are uploading their videos. And Cafe Bazaar, which Google Play, on the other hand, in contrast to YouTube, was blocked for a long time by Google, and Iranian users were not having access to download the Google Play, Android application. These two guys, and with some other people in their team, started a startup called Cafe Bazaar, which was the marketplace for Iranian developers to put their application. And now they are having around 7 million to 6 million users, which is massive in Iranian market. So everybody, I was asking about their installation, is reaching to a number of about 13 million installations. So it's a huge thing. So these success stories, and these guys are gonna, I'm sure that in this room, we have people who are, gonna be the next success stories. They have started a little bit maybe later, but for example, we have Ali Reza, if you can stand up. So he has started the similar startup to Groupon and has been successful in Iran now, serving millions of customers every day, thanks. And some other people who are in the same room. So the next generation of success stories, which are gonna be a lot more than this, are going to get shape in the country. And the good news is that these guys are already helping and supporting this. So these guys are coming up, showing up at the startup accelerators in Iran and helping this next generation of success stories getting shaped. So I want to wrap up the presentation with a call to action. I was consulting a colleague about this. So we believe that this is the perfect time to engage. So if either this is investment, if you are interested to invest in the Iranian market, we have all seen in different medias that things are opening up. So this is the perfect time, and this is to invest and to come to a frontier market. And also, if you have interest to mentor young Iranian startups, we'd be more than happy. Iran is a beautiful country, and we'll be more than happy to host you there so you can travel, give a visit to different accelerators, show up at events and speak and deliver a speech. And I would even say that if you do have a startup, we are planning so hard to be able to get some local startups from the region traveling to Iran and be there for at least 6 months and help them with the creation of their startup. So you can apply to Iranian startups as well. And so thank you very much, and I hope that the information were useful. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Find the guy.